This function's type 3. And type 3 is pretty much the last type. Type 4 is just a combination of 2 and 3. And a type 3 function is where we're not going to pass any data to it, right? It's not going to receive any data, but it will return a value. So if a function returns a value, much like a function in math, it can only return one value. So here's the declaration, right? I'll start off with the left-hand side, right? If we're returning something, we got to put the type that's being returned. If I'm returning an int, I'm going to put int. If I'm returning a character, single character, it'll be char. If I'm returning a string, okay? I'm returning a double, whatever, right? So that's not going to be void anymore. And the name of the function, followed by void in parentheses. We're not going to send anything to it, right? And then your semicolon. When we write the actual header, right? Write the actual function rather. The header is the same as the declaration with no semicolon. So again, if I were returning a double, this would say double here. All right, so there's one thing when we do return something inside the body, right? There's the header. The body must have at least one return keyword. Return is a keyword, and it has to have at least one reachable return keyword. And once you hit that return, you're done. This whole function is done. In other words, I could have 50 lines here. If my first line is return, right? Return, I have to return a double. So let's say I return 3.4, right? Or return x, and x is some double before this, right? X equals 3.66, right? Once you hit return, this guy ends. So, for example, if I say if x is less than 3, return 2.3. Else return 3.1. Right, so I have two return statements. If there's any other code after this, right? Cout, whatever, cout x, right? This line of code is never going to get run, right? So we have an x. If it's less than 3, it's going to return 2.3. Else, in this case, 3.6 is not less than 3, so I'm going to return 3.1, and the function ends. So you have to have at least one return statement in your body of the actual definition or the writing of the function. And to use it, right, well, we can just use it with the name followed by parentheses. We're not sending anything to it, so there's nothing in the parentheses, right? And it's going to return a value right here. I mean, if it was returning 2.3, it's like returning 2.3 from here. So you might want to store whatever's being returned, right? Type of value being returned, and then the name followed by a variable name equals name. In other words, if I were returning a double, I would want to say double x equals name. And if name returns 2.3, then 2.3 is kind of like returning 2.3 to right here, and x takes on that value. Now, it doesn't have to be x. Remember, this is a separate x. I could say double A equals name, right? Even if I had double x here, it's not the same x as this guy, right? It's not the same x as this. No, I forgot to put a double there up there. All right, so again, most likely you'll see this a little better when we do examples here. Here's an example of a type 3 function called calcav. The function asks the user to enter 2 integers, and then it calculates. Remember, the function is doing this. Calcav is doing this. It's asking a person for 2 integers and calculating their average. Then the average is returned to main, where it's outputted. So I have my IO stream using namespace. Here's my declaration. Okay, the name is calcav. I'm not sending anything to it, so there's void, and I will be returning a double. And then our program starts over here, right? So the output is going to output high, and then double W is going to take on whatever calcav returns. So once you hit this function, it jumps out of main, right? Goes down and looks for the function calcav, right? Here it is right here. And we're going to ask for two integers, A and B. We see in both of them. And let's say they put in a 7 and a 4, right? So double M is 7 plus 4 is 11, divided by 2 is 5.5. So 5.5 is stored in M, and then I return M. So I'm not returning, just like when we pass values, we're not passing variables, we're passing their value. We're copying what's in there and sending them back. So we're copying 5.5 in this case if they entered a 7 and a 4, and 5.5 gets passed, returned right there. So W takes on the value 5.5. Then we keep going, see out the average of those numbers is 5.5, then it outputs by, and there's the output. So that's it for type 3.